since birth. Because of this, she's had to deal with misunderstandings when people mistake her hearing aids for earphones. Many things have happened. But the worst was one day when somebody suddenly took her hearing aids from her while she was riding on the train. What happened to Alice? This is a random question, but do any of you know anyone who is hard of hearing? Have you ever seen anyone wearing hearing aids before? You probably have elderly relatives whose hearing isn't what it used to be, but that's not what I mean. I'm sure most people don't know what hearing aids look like, or wouldn't notice if someone was wearing them. That's most likely because most people don't know anyone who uses hearing aids, and don't pay attention to whether the people around them are wearing them. The truth is, I've had a hearing disability since birth, so I have to use hearing aids. I've practiced lip reading, and I'm able to if people speak slowly, but in general, my hearing aids are a lifesaver. There are many people who don't know much about hearing aids, so I've had many cases where people confuse them for earphones. If people ask me why I'm wearing earphones or make a face while I'm talking to them, I can explain that they're hearing aids. Just recently, I was out on my bike and the police stopped me to tell me it's dangerous to listen to music while bike riding. I thought I heard a noise behind me and... "Stop!" A police officer yelled out from behind me. Shocked and worried I might have done something wrong, I stopped where I was and turned to the police officer. "Please don't listen to music while riding the bike. It's dangerous." The police officer pointed at his ears and made a gesture as if he was taking something out of them. Panicked, I pulled out my phone, typed into my notepad app that I'm wearing a hearing aid, and showed it to the policeman. The police officer seemed surprised. "I'm sorry, please be careful while riding." He apologized lightly and left. It wasn't his fault, but getting stopped by the police was a bit scary. It's hard to see people clearly when they bike past you, so it was an easy mistake. But I always get nervous when talking to the police. Through these sorts of experiences, I realized how little people know about hearing aids, and I hope that sharing my story will make more people aware. If you ever have some spare time, I'd be really happy if you could look into hearing aids and hearing disabilities. I've had trouble with hearing since birth, so it'd be a huge relief if more people found out about disabilities like mine. Hearing aid technology has really developed recently, and they've become small and modern like Bluetooth earbuds. I hope that people learn to look at things from a variety of perspectives. Hearing Alice's story, I'm happy to say I've learned something new. I hope that her story makes more people aware about hearing aids and people with hearing disabilities. But a few days later, Alice experienced an unexpected tragedy. Yesterday, I decided to go out on my own and boarded the train. I go out on my own often and I've rode on the train alone countless times, so I never imagined this could happen. The train was pretty empty, so I found myself a seat. I pulled out a book and read. Every next station the train stopped at, the more full the train became. There was no longer a place for people to sit. A middle-aged man in his 50s stood in front of me. I didn't really notice him. I was deep in the world of the book I was reading. Some time passed, and I heard some mumbling. "So annoying. Don't you hear me?" He said something along those lines. I assumed that the people around me were talking to each other. The next moment, someone reached for my ears. Before I even realized, those hands had yanked out my hearing aids. It was a middle-aged man. It was so sudden that I couldn't react quickly enough. He was holding my hearing aids in his hands and staring at me. I'm sure my face looked shocked. I couldn't hear anything, and I also couldn't speak. All I could do was stare at him. I waited for him to speak, staring intently at his lips to hopefully read what he's saying. "I'm telling you to not listen to music so loudly on the train. Did you hear me? Young people these days, ignoring what everyone around them says like this." Now I realized that's what he said, but at the moment I couldn't understand him. He was speaking too quickly for me to read his lips. But I understood that he was angry and that he was looking down on me. I felt confused. I didn't know what was going on. He continued to rant at me angrily. I wasn't sure because I couldn't hear well, but based on his face, it seems like he was speaking in a loud voice. Everyone was staring at us. I kept telling you to take out your earbuds, but you wouldn't listen. I wish I could meet your parents to see who raised you like that. Why are you staring at my mouth like that? So gross. Since I was trying really hard to lip read, I partly understood that that's what he was trying to say. He thought I had been listening to music loudly, got annoyed, and told me to take out my earphones. Of course, I wasn't listening to music, so I tried to take out my phone to type out that those were my hearing aids, but he was so angry. I was so scared that my hands trembled. The man was so angry that he wasn't paying attention to my hearing aids anymore. As I was pulling up my notes app on my phone, the train came to a sudden halt. The train shook suddenly and my hearing aids dropped from the man's hands. I hurriedly picked them up and put them in my ears, but they didn't work anymore. I guess they had hit the ground hard. Hearing aids can be very delicate, so that sort of force can break them. But the man didn't notice that he had broken my hearing aids. Hey, why are you putting them back in? I haven't finished speaking to you. He was even more angry. I was so scared and confused that I felt like I was about to cry. Just as I finally managed to open my notes app and show him my message, the lady sitting next to me spoke up. Hey, could it be that the reason you're mad is because of the noise coming from my earphones? The lady said to him. No, I'm speaking to this girl here. He pointed at me. The woman replied, No, I'm pretty sure those noises you're complaining about is coming from my earbuds. I'm getting old, so I can't hear very well. There's no noise coming from the girl's earphones. Here, now that I've taken out my earphones, can't you hear how loud the music I'm listening to is? The lady held her earphones to the man. He seemed to realize his mistake. She then turned to me. I'm sorry. I didn't notice what was going on. I shouldn't listen to music so loudly, huh? These sorts of silly things happen. I felt like I was on the verge of crying again. I was so relieved. Now that this had been cleared up, I thought that the man would stop being angry. But then, he suddenly began yelling again. What the? That's fine and all, but why did you ignore me and pretend not to hear me? Kids these days really are hopeless. Without apologizing for his mistake, he began to scold me. Even if the woman next to me had noticed what was going on from the beginning, I'm sure it wasn't easy for her to speak up to him. She had really saved me. But that man still wouldn't stop, and since he had even broken my hearing aids, I was in serious trouble. I wondered what to do. Hey, how long do you plan on staying silent? I'm talking to you. She apologized to you, so at least reply to her. You have a mouth, use it. He began attacking me again. I regretted leaving the house that day. Seeing him so angry, I felt scared and couldn't move. Finally, I remembered my phone and showed him my screen. I held up my phone so that both he and the woman next to me could read it. These aren't earphones, they're hearing aids. I'm really sorry that I didn't notice that you were speaking to me. The middle-aged man read my message and said, Hearing aids? Those aren't earphones? So, you don't hear anything? Why didn't you say so earlier? Are you trying to make people angry? He seemed to get worked up again. I typed some more. It seems that my hearing aids broke when they fell on the floor earlier. I showed them my phone screen. The lady looked shocked, while the man had a guilty look on his face. The people around us realized what was going on and began glaring at the man. So, you're trying to say I broke them? That wasn't my fault, was it? The train suddenly came to a stop. It's not that I wanted to break them. He tried to make excuses to escape responsibility. I didn't know what to do. You were so rude to this girl, but you haven't even apologized, have you? Her hearing aids broke because you took them from her, but instead you're trying to act like it's not your fault? She said everything I wish I could. The man knew very well that what she was saying was true, and he began avoiding looking us in the eyes. That woman is my savior. I did my best to gesture my thanks to her. It's okay.
This was all so sudden and it was my fault this happened.
She turned her back to the man.
I should apologize to you since my loud music was annoying. I am sorry. But this girl did nothing wrong, so don't you think you should apologize to her? You better pay her back for the hearing aids too. Let's all get off together at the next station.
The man couldn't fight back anymore.
Fine, I'll get off with you,
he said. He probably couldn't take the cold stares everyone around him was giving. The three of us got off at the next station. We followed after the woman, who walked over to someone who worked at the station. Once the station employee understood what had happened, they called over a police officer. The station staff and the woman had decided that since the man had to pay me back for the hearing aids, we should just file a report with the police and exchange our contact information. I was really grateful for them. I was sure that I wouldn't be able to handle that man on my own. He seemed to feel bad, so he waited for the police officer quietly.
Is the settlement okay with you?
We all agreed. I nodded, and the man replied. The lady from the train watched over us as we exchanged our contact information. The police officer left, and I was once again alone with the two from the train. I thanked and apologized to the woman countless times. She smiled at me.
You don't need to apologize so much. You didn't do anything wrong. I hope that this sort of thing doesn't happen to you again.
I felt relieved. The man was frozen with his mouth shut. The woman said to him,
You were so talkative earlier when you were trying to lecture her, but now you're silent? Apologize to her. You're supposed to apologize when you do something wrong, right? You were complaining about her being rude, but you're the most rude person here.
She criticized him. He finally began to speak.
Not only did I make a mistake, but I broke something important to you. It was completely my fault. I'm sorry for doing something so horrible.
He looked me in the eyes and gave his apology slowly, exaggerating his mouth's movements so I could understand. I didn't expect he would apologize to me so properly, so I was happy. The lady from the train also seemed satisfied. It's okay, I mouthed back to him.
I will pay you back immediately, so please send me how much I owe you. I don't know anything about hearing aids, so please tell me.
He was completely different than before. He seems to have grown from this. I didn't have my hearing aids, so I texted my family to pick me up from the station. The woman stayed by my side the entire time I waited for my family. It's okay, I can wait for them on my own. I typed out that message and showed it to her many times, but she'd say,
Don't worry, I want to wait with you, so please let me. I'm also at fault here, so please let me apologize to your family.
When my family arrived, she explained the situation and apologized. She really saved me. Even if there are scary people in this world like that man, there are wonderful people like her too. And I'm grateful that he apologized to me in the end. I don't think I'll ever forget what happened to me yesterday. It was scary, but I'm sure that what'll stick with me the most is the gratitude I feel for that woman. If there are more people like her in this world, it would be a better place. There aren't many people who experience this kind of thing, but there are a lot of people in need. So if you see someone in trouble, you shouldn't hesitate to help them. I'm so grateful for that woman. I'll never be able to forget her. Alice experienced something she had never imagined, but thanks to that kind lady on the train, this whole situation came to a happy end. I hope that whenever any of us see someone in trouble like Alice was, we will do our best to understand and help them.